I want you to imagine a scenario that the best person on your leadership team is about to leave and you do not know it yet. Now, I'm not guessing, I'm describing a pattern that I personally have seen so many times that I can predict it before the CEO even suspects it. And by the time the resignation letter arrives, the decision was made weeks or months ago. The letter is just the paperwork. The real departure happened long before anyone noticed. And I call it the resignation before the resignation. It is the moment a talented, capable leader mentally checks out of your business while still physically showing up every day. They will attend the meetings, they deliver the work, they smile in the corridor, but inside they've already moved on. And the system you built around them is basically the reason. Now, today, what I want to do is I want to show you 3 warning signs that this is happening right now in your business. And I want to share one conversation that could actually stop it, but only if you have it before the letter arrives. Because once the letter is on your desk, it's going to be too late. So for those who don't know me, my name is Vijay Mistri. I'm a leadership operating systems architect. And what I've done is I've identified 15 specific gaps that sit inside leadership teams, and these silently cap growth, they erode margin and slow decisions. And a gap is not a vague problem. It is specific, measurable dysfunction in your leadership system that I can identify, cost in pounds or dollars, and fix. And 3 of those gaps are directly responsible for your best people leaving. So let me share these warning signs. Warning sign number 1, they stopped bringing ideas. Now, think about when this person first joined your business. They were full of energy. They had observations about how things could improve. They brought ideas to meetings. They in fact challenged the status quo as well. They pushed back when they disagreed. Now that is what made you hire them. That energy, that initiative, that willingness to lead. Now think about the last 3 months. When was the last time they actually brought you an idea you had not asked for? When was the last time they challenged a decision in a meeting? When was the last time they pushed back on something and said, I think we should do this differently? If you cannot remember, the first warning sign is already active. They stopped bringing ideas not because they ran out of ideas. They stopped because the system taught them that ideas are not going to lead to action. They brought an idea 6 months ago. It was acknowledged, but nothing happened. They brought another idea. It was discussed, deferred, forgotten. They brought a third, same result. And at some point, an intelligent person draws a rational conclusion. Bringing ideas here is actually a waste of my energy, so they completely stop. Now, that is not a motivational problem. That is actually gap 3, which is conflict avoidance, and gap 12 as well, which is execution decay compounding. The system could not convert their initiative into outcomes. And when initiative produces no result, initiatives die. So let me share the warning sign number 2. They started asking permission for everything. Now, this is slightly subtler than the first one, and it is often the one that fools CEOs because it looks like respect. A leader who used to make decisions confidently within their own area starts checking with you before every move. You would say, I was thinking of doing this. Is that okay? Just wanted to run this past you before I go ahead. I did not want to commit without your approval. And the CEO is going to interpret this as diligence, as caution, as a leader who is being thoughtful. But it is not diligence. It is learned helplessness. The leader has been conditioned by the system to believe that independent decision making is risky. Maybe the CEO overrode one of their decisions. Maybe they were questioned publicly after acting on their own initiative. Maybe they just watched a colleague get criticized for deciding without the trigger. The lesson was learned. Waiting is safe. Deciding is dangerous. And so they wait for everything, even for decisions they are perfectly capable of making on their own. And this is gap number 8, the founder bottleneck. When 60 to 80% of decisions require CEO approval, the system is not empowering leaders. It is creating order takers. And order takers are not going to stay, because the best people did not build their career to ask permission. They actually built it to lead. So let me share a warning sign number 3. And this is one that breaks my heart every time I see it. They become the perfect employee. What's going to happen is they are going to show up on time. They deliver everything that is asked of them, and they're never going to complain. They never push back. They are reliable, they are consistent, and completely disengaged. Now, the CEO looks at this particular person and thinks, they are the one of my most dependable leaders, because they never cause problems. They always deliver. But here's what is actually happening. They have stopped caring about making the business better. They have shifted from leading to surviving. They do what is required and nothing more. Not because they're lazy, because they have learned that doing more than what is required is going to produce no recognition, no authority, no growth, and no change. So they conserve their energy for the job search they are running quietly in the background. The perfect employee is often the person closest to the exit, because the imperfect employee, the one who challenges, who pushes, who argues, who's going to bring ideas that are sometimes wrong, that person is still invested. They still believe things can change. But the perfect employee has stopped believing. And that is the most expensive silence in your business. And I want to put a number on this, because I think every CEO needs to feel the cost, not just understand it. So when your best person leaves, the cost is not their salary. It is 1.5 to 2 times their annual salary when you account for recruitment fees, the 3 to 6 months it takes to find a replacement, the 6 to 12 months it takes the replacement to reach full productivity, the knowledge that walks out of the door, the disruption to the team, and the message it's going to send to every other good person watching. A person at say 80,000 pounds costs you 120 to 160,000 pounds to replace. A person at say 120,000 pounds costs you 180,000 to 240,000 pounds. But the real cost is the one you cannot measure. It is the conversation that happens in the car park after the resignation is announced, when 2 of your remaining leaders look at each other and one says, "I'm not surprised. I've been thinking the same thing." That is when one departure becomes 2, and 2 becomes a culture of leaving that takes years to reverse. Now, all of this particular cost which I've described is avoidable, not with a pay rise, not with a better title, not with a retention bonus, just this one particular conversation. And so here's the conversation. And I want you to have it this particular week, not next month, this week, ideally. So what I want you to do is sit down with the person you're most afraid of losing and ask them these three questions, not in a performance review, not in a formal meeting, perhaps over a coffee face to face. So the first question is, what is the most frustrating part of working here that you have stopped raising because nothing changes? Let them answer. Don't defend. Don't explain. Just listen. The second question. If you had complete authority over your area with no need for my approval, what would you do differently? Now, this particular question reveals whether they still have ideas they have been sitting on. Now, if they light up when they are answering, they are still invested. But if they struggle to answer, the resignation before the resignation may have already happened. And question number 3. What would need to change for this to be the best job you have ever had? And this is the question that most CEOs never ask, because the answer might require the CEO to change something about themselves or the system they built. And that is uncomfortable. But that discomfort is the price of keeping the best person on your team. 3 questions, just one coffee. This particular week, it could be the most valuable 30 minutes you spend all year. Now, if you want to test whether your system is built to retain your best people or quietly push them towards the door, I have what is called the CEO scorecard, which tests all 5 dimensions of the leadership operating system. Just 5 questions, 60 seconds, absolutely free. What I'll do is I'll leave the link in the description below. Or you may decide to take the Gap Unlock questionnaire, which is at vijay.com. Just 12 questions. It will take you 3 minutes. And I personally review every response. I'll also leave that particular link below. If this is resonating, I would genuinely appreciate if you would please hit the subscribe, because I'll be releasing a full series covering all 15 gaps and the insights that come with them. And subscribing means that you will not miss what is coming next. I'm Vijay Mistri, clarity first, impact fast. I will see you in the next one.